Hey, what's up guys? Alright, so I know that I am extremely late with reviewing Eden Zero Chapter 174, so because of that I'm going to try to keep this video very short, about down to like maybe 4 to 5 minutes at most, so that I'm not wasting too much of your time. In which this is actually the perfect chapter to do that for, because of the fact that this entire chapter was pretty much just one battle scene, which I think Hero was just kind of using as an excuse to showcase what the entire Eden Zero crew minus Hermit, Sister, and Moskoi can do post the time skip. Which, even though we didn't really get to see anything too crazy or too new from most of the members of the Eden Zero crew during this chapter, since we started the time skip off by showcasing what Shiki's able to do post the time skip, it was really cool again to see these characters show off what they're able to do with these IUA soldiers. And actually, speaking of the IUA soldiers, it was actually kind of cool the way Hero actually had some of them, like a certain squad of the IUA soldiers that Feather had with her, using her ability Drew, I believe she called it an ether link, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the first time we got introduced to anything like that in the series. Now I might be wrong about that. If I am, let me know in the comment section down below. But this is actually kind of a cool introduction to that kind of ability, where she's giving her subordinates temporary limited use of her abilities. Now, this is actually kind of interesting with Hero introducing this, because if this is not something that's limited to her, then we could possibly end up seeing later on in the series, maybe something happens to Shiki and he can't fight anymore, and he actually has to use an ether link to connect to Wise or Homura or Rebecca, giving them access to his gravity abilities. That could be kind of cool. Or vice versa, we could actually see later on in the series near the end when Shiki's fighting off against whoever the main villain is, most likely still going to be Ziggy, but still when he's at that final confrontation with the main villain of the series, maybe we see the entire Eden Zero crew just kind of using their ether gear link or their ether link to connect to Shiki, giving them access to their abilities. Although, with that being said, that is kind of similar to how Natsu defeated Acnologia at the end of Fairy Tail, which, even though I personally did enjoy the entirety of Fairy Tail from the beginning to end, I know a lot of fans didn't really enjoy the later half of Fairy Tail all that much, so because of the fact that that actually might end up reminding them of that, maybe Hero doesn't want to actually go down that route. Now, getting back to the chapter, I was actually really impressed with the Eden Zero crew. Again, they weren't really showcasing any new abilities or new techniques or anything like that. I mean, we did get to see, like, Wise had this kind of, like, arsenal gauntlet thing that he activated during the fight to knock a soldier away from him. But what I was mostly impressed by was the fact that they were outmatching even the soldiers who were using the ether link to use Feather's ether gear ability, which is Eyes of God, which were allowing them to kind of technically see into the future, mostly really just kind of predicting where their opponents are going to do next. And even when they actually were able to see what Wise's next move were, they weren't able to stop him, which is the same case for all the Eden Zero members. Even though they could predict what they were going to do next, they weren't able to stop them because they were just too fast. And I really liked that aspect of the fight when the Eden Zero crew was using that against the normal soldiers, even the ones who were using her ether gear ability. But when it came to Shiki basically using that same kind of technique where he was just too fast for Feather to predict, at the end of the chapter when basically he speed whisked her and just kind of tapped her on the shoulder saying, hey, we're going to see you later, that kind of irked me a little bit just because of the fact that I still don't believe that Shiki should be near the level of an OSG or an OSI. And by Hero having Shiki basically do this to her in this chapter shows that either he is way stronger than I personally believe he should be at this point in the series, or that Feather is just way weaker than she should be as an OSI member. But I'll give it to Hero that considering that we're at chapter 174, he wants the series to be shorter than Fairy Tail but longer than Rave Master, which means about 300 something to 400 something chapters. We are most likely about like 1/3 of the series through at the very least. So maybe it is about time for Shiki to be at the very least at the same level of the lower OSI and OSG members. But you know what, other than that, I really enjoyed the rest of the chapter, especially getting to see all the characters fight. It was actually kind of cool getting to see Pino and Happy get involved in the fight. I mean, we've already seen Pino use her EMP ability multiple times during fights, so that was nothing new. But it was actually kind of cool seeing Happy actually use his own solo gun mode, where we get to see that he's capable of fighting at least low-level soldiers by himself. I don't expect him to be getting his own boss fight anytime soon in any future arcs, but at the very least he's able to fight alone without having to rely on Rebecca. And this actually kind of shows that over the past 3 years, the two of them actually been able to work independently from each other during fights. In fact, we get to see, for example, in this chapter, Rebecca taking out some soldiers by herself without having to use her ether gear or using Happy, but she does unfortunately actually have to use her overdrive, which gets revealed in this chapter. Which I say unfortunately, even though I do dig the design for it, only because I kind of feel like that her overdrive reveal in this chapter was kind of lackluster, just because of the fact that she's using it against such easy opponents. I expected her to reveal this during a big fight, like during her own boss fight in one of the future arcs, but showing it off in this chapter kind of left me feeling flat on it. Again, I really do dig the design, but I kind of wish Hero had actually revealed it in a much cooler way. Although, that being said, we already have seen plenty of times that overdrives can evolve. I mean, we had Shiki start off with an overdrive that wasn't his true overdrive in the Dragon Joe arc, So because of that, maybe later on, and when she's actually having a 1v1 fight, we'll get to see her Overdrive evolve into her true form, and get a much better reveal for that. Now, that's pretty much all that really happens during a fight. Like I said, they kind of just walk through the entire OSI army, or the entire IUA army, I should say, that Fedora has under her control, and they make their way to their ship, where once they get there, Herman and his sister basically tell them, listen, we got an entire fleet surrounding us, so it's pretty much impossible for us to get through without having to fight, which they don't want to do because they don't really see the IUA as their enemies. That's the reason why they were kind of going so light on them. They didn't kill anybody, they didn't do too much damage, and she didn't even try to fight Feder because they were just trying to get out of there. They didn't want to actually fight. And lucky for them, Connor actually shows up on the ship right when they're having this conversation and says that he can pilot the ship through the blockade without having to fight anybody or doing any kind of damage. And that's pretty much where the chapter ends. And, you know, like I said in my last review, I knew this is exactly how it was going to go down. Connor was actually going to show up and actually decide to help them out in escaping, and he's going to end up joining the crew as a permanent member as their pilot for the ship. Although, I'm sure at some point, Wise or someone's going to mention, hey, listen, we got in this problem because of the fact that we came to Blue Garden to drop you off. So I'm sure that's going to be brought up at some point for a comedic gag. But I actually am kind of digging the fact that Connor is going to be joining the crew as an official member. Although I am still interested in the mystery of what happened to the alternate universe Connor that was part of Ziggy's crew getting answered at some point. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it for chapter 174's review. Thanks for watching. I hope I kept it down to about 5 minutes like I promised. Yeah, pretty much it. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Comment down below your thoughts on the chapter. Like and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.